Every day when I wake up in the morning, I see the sky and I think about the things that you've made. All the beauty and your glory is showing, yeah. It never bores me to look at the ocean. The waves are crashing, the water spraying up in my face. I look above and all the seagulls are soaring, yeah. We've got to overcome the darkness, so we don't get caught in the middle, between the hopeful and the heartless. So, hello, good day, good morning, I just can't stop smiling, because today is a brand new day, and all the darkness and the pain is just fading behind me. Oh Lord, what a beautiful day. All the planets surround me, the way they orbit just boggles my mind, the way the sun keeps on shining, yeah. We got to overcome the darkness, so we don't get caught in the middle, between the hopeful and the heartless. So, hello, good day, good morning, I just can't stop smiling, because today is a brand new day, and all the darkness and the pain is just fading behind me. Oh Lord, what a beautiful day. There's nothing to fear, it'll be okay. It's the day that the Lord has made. It's the day that the Lord has made. There's nothing to fear, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. It's the day that the Lord has made. That the Lord has it's made. The day that the Lord has made. That the Lord has made. So, hello, good day, good morning, I just can't stop smiling, because today is a brand new day, and all the darkness and the pain is just fading behind me. Oh Lord, what a beautiful day.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Live with Doug as we think through God's Word together. Glad that you could join us. So as we wrapped up yesterday, I told you that I was going to share with you something that our fellowship was doing, some plans at least that we had been putting together to impact our city. And I thought before I give the details, I need to give you some context. As I'm going through this study, this New Testament, or this look at the New Testament church, I want to make it clear, my goal is not to simply tear down. I'm not really trying to tear down. Well, maybe I am a little bit, but it's how can we be better at what the Lord has called us to do? And last week, in one of the discussions, someone challenged my statement or my question about impacting the culture, and we had a little brief back and forth about that, and he threw out that, the biblical basis he sees is kind of a salt and light kind of thing, which I agree. I think that's a great concept to think about. And well, let me just pull up the passage. It's in Matthew 5. We're familiar with this, probably. Sermon on the Mount here. Jesus said, "You are the salt of the earth. But if the salt has become tasteless, how can it be made salty again?" Right? If the salt loses its saltiness, if it doesn't have the flavor, if it's not salty, how can it become salty? It's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men. So whatever he means by the salt of the earth, we need to stay salty. You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor does anyone light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on the lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light shine before men in such a way that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. So that's a great passage to kind of summarize what I think the church is failing to do and has been failing to do for a while. We've lost our saltiness. We're not shining so that people see us. Would they see the light? Look at our world. Look at Western culture. Look at the U.S., right? That's my nation. There's so much corruption, wickedness, legalized wickedness. And we could sit here all day long, multiplying examples of how that is. And the church, Christians, those who serve King Jesus, we have the responsibility to reprove it, to call it out, Ephesians 5, to shine the light into the darkness. We have the opportunity to impact the world and culture, but we're not doing it. We're losing ground all the time, it seems like. And in the past, it appears that it was kind of cool in America to be called a Christian, and in Europe for that matter. And there was a survey or a study, something released last week. I just saw the headline that said, I can't remember if it was Europe or if it was a specific nation in Europe, but somewhere and across the pond, for the first time, there were fewer Christians than non-Christians. Anybody know what I'm talking about? I know we have some UK folks on here occasionally. I'd be curious to know if you saw that, if you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, for my point, it doesn't matter too much how specific, but somewhere, and I think it was in Europe, for the first time, the number of people who call themselves Christians was fewer than those who didn't. Now, of course, it's just because people have called themselves Christians over the years doesn't mean they were true believers. Mike says UK. Okay, thank you. That's not really the point. The point is it has been a good thing over the years to call yourself Christians, and now it's becoming more acceptable to not call yourself a Christian. Mike says Anglicans, Catholics. So there are fewer of those groups. Is that what the article was saying? Anyway, again, we can debate about whether it's good to have so many people call themselves Christians, especially if they're not genuine believers. That's not the point. The point is that does at least indicate at some level Christianity is not having the impact that maybe we once had. Are we losing our saltiness? Are we becoming impotent to shine the light so that men can see our good works? I mean, even that, look at that phrase again, the last verse 16 here. Let your light shine before men in such a way that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who's in heaven. One question that's been sort of plaguing me as I've rethought all of this is, how do we do that? Like, practically speaking, are your good works on display where the world can see them? Do you have examples? Do your fellow Christians in your church, are they doing things that are righteous so that the world of unrighteous men can see those good works? And my question is, does the traditional model work against our being salt and light and putting our good works on display? I think it does. Unintentionally. But I think it does. And let me explain a little bit of why I think this is. So let me give you a perspective of a pastor. You know this, for the last 25 years, up until a little over a year ago, I was a pastor in a traditional model church. And my weekly agenda, my to-do list, my calendar didn't leave much room for me to be salt and light, nor to really encourage and make sure that the church was salt and light. Like it or not, no matter the size of the church you're part of, most of the time these days, our churches are program driven. And Sunday morning is the biggest and most important program. And I know many of your pastors don't think of it that way. So I'm not questioning the motives. I'm not charging anybody with deceit, that kind of thing. I'm just telling you now that I've gotten away from it, I see it. And I was vocal about not being that. And I taught against being that. And I thought I was doing the best that I could to not make our church about Sunday morning. I think I've mentioned this to you several times. The things that I'm teaching you, the things that I'm trying to point you to in the scripture, I've been teaching this for years, over a decade, in New Covenant School of Theology and in our church. And I thought I was doing the best you can do in the 21st century to not lead our church in being program driven and that kind of thing. And now what I'm seeing, which I could not have seen being part of it, what I'm seeing is the model itself, there's just no getting around it. So as a pastor, in the traditional model, you're the lead pastor and you're the main preacher. Sunday's a coming. You've heard that old joke, that old little mantra for pastors. Sunday's a coming. You know, you preach on Sunday, you go home, you're wiped out, you rest because it's exhausting. Maybe you have a small group. Maybe you have a Sunday service. I know some of you probably still have Sunday services. And maybe you take Mondays off. That's fairly typical for pastors. But next Sunday's coming. And it's really hard for a lot of pastors to truly take a day off because Sunday's coming. And some guys move their days off to Wednesday or Friday, something like that. So they get back to it on Monday and start preparing and then take a day off later. But even there, I talked to guys who've done that, and whether it's Wednesday or Friday, it's still really hard to really get rest and pull yourself away because Sunday's coming. And then what are you doing during the week? You're spending 20, 25, 30 hours a week writing a sermon. And notice how I phrase that, writing a sermon. This is why I keep talking about how guys go to the commentaries so quickly because I have a sermon to craft. I have a presentation. I have to have this presentation ready to go. And anybody who's ever done public speaking understands it takes a lot of work to formulate how you're going to present the information. So study time gets pushed aside for presentation time. And that's when you're reading commentaries, you're listening to sermons, you're writing your outline, rehearsing your outline, you're looking for illustrations, illustrations.com. You're looking for things to say, and here are my 3 points, and how am I going to illustrate this? That takes a lot of work. And then if you do PowerPoint, then you've got to put all that together. And in a big church, you have a staff that helps with some of that, but still it's on your mind. And that's just the sermon. You've got the music program. Now, you may not be a musician and be involved in that, but hey, you're the CEO of this corporation. You got to make sure, even if you're a small company, even if you're a church of 75 or 100, you got to have music on Sunday morning. And that requires a music director or music pastor, worship pastor as they're often called. And somebody's got to make sure all that happens. And then you got to figure out, okay, what songs are we going to sing? And the pastor is usually involved in determining the order of service and what else we're going to have. We're going to have communion. Well, we got to make sure that there are people there to hand out the elements. We got to have elements. We got to have the little Lunchables or or bread and juice, whatever. Right? You got to make sure the doors are open. Make sure the rugs get vacuumed now and then. Are the seats put where they're supposed to be? something like that. You know, if you have chairs, you got to make sure all the chairs are kind of straightened out and lined up. If you have pews, maybe at least got to wipe them down and vacuum them, that kind of thing. And then that's just Sunday morning, and that's not even all of it. Sunday school, do you have a Sunday school? Who's going to make sure we have Sunday school teachers? And what are we studying? And then nursery. I haven't even mentioned nursery. I mean, how many nursery appeals do we get? We got to coordinate this. I got to have people. And a good leader will raise up people to lead all of those ministries. But you know how every organization works. At some point, the guy at the top of that chart has to speak into these things and spend time. And he's concerned about it for sure and worried about it. And that's just, again, broadly speaking, Sunday morning, the main program. But you got youth ministry and men's ministry and women's ministry and outreach ministries and missions and all the different programs and ministries where everything is focused on those programs. How do we let our light shine before men that they can see our good works? Well, through programs. We're going to have this outreach program ministry. It's going to be organized. It's going to take place at this location. And so now invite people. So that's what that's the church's role. You get people to this event. Get people to that program. I don't think that's what Jesus had in mind. And I think the traditional model does two things. Number one, it reduces or restricts or focuses. Again, I'm not trying to be overly critical here. Just I'm really trying to get you to say, "Oh, wait, is that true?" I think the traditional model focuses on the programs and the events. And then secondly, it allows the typical churchgoer to check the box. They went to the big event on Sunday. They go to a few of the other events, whether it's outreach or this ministry or a small group or whatever. We did that check. And then they have to live their life. And so, they got work to deal with. They got their family to deal with. And that's the, majority of life. But they're doing the church thing. They're committed to some of these programs. And look, we're doing this car wash for the community. It's free. The youth group's out there. Isn't that great? We're going to wash cars and have our funny signs and, hand out tracts or invitations or goodie bags or whatever and invite them to church. We're letting our light shine before men. Is that what Jesus meant? I don't think so. But I'm not sure the church can be salt in permeating the culture. To use another illustration of Jesus' leaven that leavens the whole loaf. I don't think we can leaven the whole loaf in the traditional model. That's my bottom line assumption. Or at least, okay. Again, maybe it can be done. I can't do it. Maybe I should just leave it there. And I'd be curious to know how some of you can do it. But on the flip side, here's kind of what we've experienced already. Dale made a comment here I wanted to take a look at real quick. He says, the Christian life is a much bigger, more encompassing, and central commitment than we are used to thinking of it as. Christian life is a much bigger, more encompassing, and central commitment. I think we're on the same page there. I'd be curious if you want to note a couple other examples of that or flesh it out just a little bit. I know it's hard to do on chat. So what I've observed in our fellowship is, I believe I mentioned this yesterday, but so much more involvement among our people with each other's lives. It's not about simply Sunday morning. It's certainly not about a service, something. We don't have a service. We gather and we do all the things that we've been talking about. But that's spilling over naturally. We're not pushing this. Where do we talk about it? We talk about all these things. But what I love is what's happening is, and this is not coming directly from me. It's coming somewhat from me because I'm talking about these things and I'm encouraging it and drawing to the scripture. But what I love is people are seeing it and they're taking initiative to love one another very practically, very tangibly. And we keep talking about using our gifts and skills and abilities for each other to include unbelievers, or at least in a way that they can see it. For instance, a simple thing, but we had a couple that have some concrete work to do in their yard. And so a couple guys that have that ability, went over and helped them do it. Well, the neighbors saw that, and the young woman's supervisor at her job heard about it because she was commenting. And the supervisor said something like, do you think they'd be willing to come? I've got a little patio or sidewalk, something that I need some work. Would they be willing to come do that? That's, that I think is a good example of this good works we're talking about, where somebody can see it, where this young woman can say, yeah, these friends of ours, just came to help, which kind of shocks many in the world. They don't have a lot of friends necessarily that will help them. Some do for sure. But at some point she can say to them, I think she did say to her, these are my, I don't know if she said part of my church or my Christian friends or whatever, but somehow saying, communicating, this is Christian friendship, love, devotion, that kind of thing. Remember, Jesus said, the world will know we are his disciples by our love for each other. He doesn't say they'll know you're my disciples by your love for the world, but our love for other Christians, Jesus said, will be how the world knows that we are his disciples. So our group, so that's one, and that kind of thing has been happening all the time. And we've been talking about how do we help the broader community. We have a guy who has a little garage and knows he's rebuilt cars. He's converted 2 or 3 cars from combustion engines to electric engine, like in Tesla kind of thing. He's built his own sort of Tesla, not Tesla, but you know what I mean, electric cars. And he's willing to help anybody and teach some of these young guys that are around how to fix their cars, basic things that dads used to teach, but they don't teach so much anymore. How can we do that kind of thing for one another and invite the community in? We've been talking about building a community center where there are all kinds of activities going on. Inviting the community in, sort of the hub of it would be a coffee shop, but lots of other things where we are teaching people life skills and providing space for them to do things. And the idea is we are tangibly, physically helping people learn something that is productive in this world and providing the opportunity for Christians to rub elbows with unbelievers and loving one another in all these things right there in front of them. And that's the long-term vision. We need some money. So we're all working and saving and thinking, how do we do this? And it's not going to be our fellowship. Our group is not a 501c3. We are not an organized organization before the state. We never will be. We're just Christians getting together. So this thing will not be a formal church under the name of a church kind of thing. It's going to be just Christian. So a stepping stone en route to that is one of the ideas we've had recently is, I don't know if you've seen kind of the tiny house craze, but we're looking at a plot of land and building tiny houses and building a little community there where a couple of our folks will live, and thinking this can be a great place for young couples to have a place to live debt free and begin building their wealth without the need of great debt and be part of this community and so on. And I'm not going to go into too many details. We're still waiting, and we've got it before the city now, and they may put the kibosh on the whole thing. And the point is, this is not a church thing in the sense that we're not a formal 501c3 church. That's what I mean. It's Christians doing this with a vision, and the vision is to be profitable. We want this business endeavor to be profitable, but that profit is not just monetary. We want to see it have an impact and provide useful skills for the community, because this whole world belongs to Jesus, and this will give us the opportunity to talk to them about those things. And there's more to it, but that's generally kind of what we're doing. So let me catch up on a couple of these comments here. Walk with Drew says, wouldn't you suggest these Western adaptations to the church model of the New Testament are in part the same thing that you're doing by having a ministry name? Are you talking about like Cross to Crown Ministries? Because Cross to Crown Ministries is not a church. So who's the you? Wouldn't you suggest these Western adaptations to the church model in the New Testament are in part the same thing that you're doing by having a ministry name? Jesus didn't have a ministry name, did he? No. Yeah, I'm not sure what you're asking there, because I'm not pretending to be a church. Cross to Crown Ministries is not a church. We're an organization, so I'm not sure how that applies. Dale says, our life should be about serving and exalting Jesus. Worship is not another thing to fit into our schedules, even if it is a high priority. It is also not confined to structured time slots. Right. Back to Walk with Drew says, not trying to poke the bear, just a thought. Ministry names aren't in the New Testament, but we have them. I think the adaptations work towards the overall goal of going on into all the world. Yeah, and I don't. Again, feel free to push back. And sorry, I see now that we have another uninvited guest here. Did that go away? Huh? I see an inappropriate comment, but maybe somebody reported it or it's already gone. And also, weird. Dale says, sorry, now I'm trying to, maybe you all can't see all those comments. That's good if you can't. It's easy, at least for me, to let one mode that we can use to serve Jesus grow more important than it ought to be, or get caught up in the pre-existing model. Economists call it mini-maxing and greedy algorithms. Yeah. Who is this? Walk with Drew. Yeah, I'd be curious to explore that a little more with you. I don't know if you've been with us through this whole thing. I'll just reiterate what I said earlier. In my experience, most of what I'm teaching now I've taught for a long time. I thought the traditional model could accomplish this. I'm not persuaded that it can anymore, and I don't. Yeah, so if you hear me saying we can't do anything if it's not explicitly stated in the New Testament, that's not what I'm arguing. I'm not a regulative principle guy, even though some have accused me of this. That's not really where I'm coming from. What I'm arguing for is the principles and the clear callings. And again, can your sorry, I'm distracted by, I keep seeing this inappropriate comment, but it's not showing up on YouTube. Are you all still seeing my YouTube? Could you give me a quick thumbs up? Because over here, it almost appears as though it shut down the live stream. Anybody? Before I just keep going, I want to see. All right. Well, time is up anyway. Let's keep talking. I think I hear what you're saying. Walk with Drew. I don't think I agree. I don't agree. I'm not opposed to just to new. Okay, Dale says can't see it now. Good. So, and I guess that means I'm still streaming, although on my YouTube here it looks like I'm not. Anyway, to wrap this up, I'd be curious, walk with Drew, and you can put this on the, maybe comment on the video after I shut down here, or if you want to come back tomorrow, we can talk more about it. I'd be curious in your situation. I'm assuming that you're in the traditional model. Most everybody is. And I'm assuming you would say that your church is shining light into the world, salt, and that kind of thing. And I'd love to know what the net effect of that is. What real impact? How, can you give some specific examples of how you know that there are people in the world who see your good works, not just they could see it, but they actually do. I'm not really wanting to debate. I'm just kind of sharing my experience and what I see. All right, going to wrap it up. We'll come back and talk more about this tomorrow, Lord willing. Have a great day. We'll see you down the road.